The bike lane ends here. The plan is to extend the lane all the way across West Circle Drive, but the construction plan will come at a cost of additional parking spaces. Now, advocates for this bill hope to not only allow nurses to sign prescriptions for patients, but to also address a future shortage in practicing physicians. Now, one concern in the classroom that many professors cannot address is classroom seating. There's ample seats in most lecture halls on campus, but there's not much room for handicapped students up front. Now, most electronic clocks will switch on their own, such as your cell phone, television, and laptop. But remember to switch the hour back on things such as your watch, your microwave, and even in your car. Go to the doctor often? Lansing resident Priscilla Dever goes about once a month and is sometimes frustrated.
It usually takes like about 45 minutes to an hour, and it does take a minute for a while for them to get the prescription.
And lawmakers are trying to do something about it. There's a Senate bill that would allow advanced practicing nurses to sign prescriptions without physician approval. Dr. Gretchen Schumacher is president-elect of the Michigan Council of Nurse Practitioners and a nursing professor at MSU. She thinks advanced nurse practitioners should be able to prescribe drugs to patients.
And to clarify, Senate Bill 68 does not advance the scope of practice of APRNs. This bill only seeks to allow us to practice to the full extent of our education and training.
But some doctors groups don't agree. Dr. Tina Tanner is president of the Michigan Academy of Family Physicians. She says, quote, the bill would, in practice, expand the scope of practice of APRNs, allowing them to perform critical acts and functions independent of a physician. Now, advocates for this bill hope to not only allow nurses to sign prescriptions for patients, but to also address a future shortage in practicing physicians. Schumacher says over half of Michigan is considered to be in a health provider crisis because there are not enough doctors.
This is not something where we're competing with physicians in any way. There's too many patients for all of us. We need everybody. It takes a team.
Dr. Tanner says physicians should always be involved, especially when it comes to addictive drugs. She says, quote, in the interest of patient safety and public health, prescribing privileges pertaining to these drugs must require an established relationship with a physician, end quote. Whatever happens, patients like Priscilla hope they get the care that they need.
Sometimes you think that maybe they might forget about you because they're so busy.
For Focal Point, I am Tyler Clifford. The summer months bring out shorts, bikes, and construction on Michigan State University's campus. And this construction season will see improvements on West Circle Drive to extend the bike lane. But freshman Justin Carpenter says he'd rather ride on the sidewalk.
I don't know, I actually feel safer on the sidewalks than I do on the road, so.
With each campus construction project, MSU commits to improve bike safety on nearby roads. Civil engineer Scott Gardner says
hey, thank you.
They will add a foot in width to the road to make the bike lane bigger.
Road construction will go from the corner here where you can see the pavement stopped all the way over to Auditorium Road. What the bike lane does do gives them a direct path without having to worry about getting hit by a vehicle. So it's a level of comfort that you have to work with.
The bike lane ends here. The plan is to extend the lane all the way across West Circle Drive, but the construction plan will come at a cost of additional parking spaces.
We're losing 8 spaces in front of the museum in Lot 6. In Lot 11, we're losing 10 spaces. In the process of doing this, we're making all the parking spaces the standard parking size. A lot of them are undersized, so you can't park 2 full-size vehicles in there without hitting metal to metal.
But MSU alum Mark Lauterbach says it's harder to find parking now than in the 80s.
It's really weird. I mean, here it looks like they're forcing everyone out to the commuter lots, and when it's 20 below and snowing in the wintertime, that doesn't make any sense to me. And it's a beautiful campus, but I drove around for 20 minutes to find a parking spot, which is ridiculous.
Harder for drivers to park, but safer for bikers to travel.
The wider portion, I would feel better with it, especially because if I can feel like I can maybe even pass someone in the bike lane, or be passed by someone and not feel like either of us are going to get smoked by a car.
For Focal Point, I'm Tyler Clifford. You know what it's called when we change our clocks, right?
For me, it's just daylight savings.
I believe it's savings time, I think.
Everyone pretty much
savings, right?
has an idea
savings.
What it is.
It compensates for the lack of sunlight or something.
Daylight save.
You sure?
Even though almost everyone says it wrong.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me as long as I'm getting the message across.
Well, it's daylight saving time, and many countries practice it, advancing time by an hour in the spring and returning back an hour to standard time in the fall. The good news is that it adds an hour of sleep in the fall, even though the time change at 2 a.m. sometimes causes mixed feelings.
I was up. I was excited about it. Freaked me out a little bit.
But it costs 1 hour of sleep in spring, which can come with health risk.
My concern as a sleep specialist is sleep deprivation, because that 1 hour of sleep deprivation causing a lots of problems with mood changes.
At sleep clinics like this one in Okemos, people spend the night hooked up to sensors that record their sleep patterns.
Recording different stuff, and that box is connected to the computer, main computer.
A sleep pattern is synchronized on a 24-hour cycle, regulated by light.
Daylight saving time, it pushes us out of sync, but it takes few days, and we will go back to our cycle. It is like same jet lag effect. In spring, we traveling eastward, and in fall, we travel to westward.
Now, most electronic clocks will switch on their own, such as your cell phone, television, and laptop. But remember to switch the hour back on things such as your watch, your microwave, and even in your car.
Dr. Mamadov is concerned with how the spring change may affect people's Monday commute to work.
First of all, drivers drive in darkness, so that's why there is more chance of accidents, and then they most likely to be sleep deprived for 1 hour.
Meet Katie.
My major is advertising.
She's diagnosed with cerebral palsy.
I was born 13 weeks early. I was 2 pounds.
She came to MSU because of the accessibility of campus for students with disabilities.
The last college I went to, there was only one accessible restroom on campus.
Michael Hudson is director of the Resource Center for Persons with Disabilities, which serves a small population on campus.
We've registered about 3% of the students, slightly over 3.1%. 1,532 students worked with our office last year.
It advocates for accommodations for disabled students, especially those that are not so obvious, such as problems with health, mental, and vision. That's perfect.
Yeah. Disabilities are situations in your life that affect major life activities. So the easy ones to understand are seeing, hearing, walking, moving. But there's a lot of other things that can happen for people. Some of those hidden disabilities like chronic health.
And most faculty like engineering professor Dr. Rechtenwald does not see many students with disabilities in his classes.
As a general whole, most of the time I deal with a disability, I'm getting a note from the Center for Disabilities. And so it's something usually related to test anxiety or perhaps font size, things like that, that are easy to accommodate.
But he has learned to address issues with students that are colorblind, learning not to use red font on important text.
And I was very glad for that because it was clear that I had a red font in a very important place, and it had just never occurred to me that a student could be colorblind and not notice a red font. So I did a little research on my own to figure out what colors I could use and couldn't use.
Now, one concern in the classroom that many professors cannot address is classroom seating. There's ample seats in most lecture halls on campus, but there's not much room for handicapped students up front.
In that big lecture hall they have, I can only sit in the back of the classroom. So if a professor doesn't use his microphone, I can't hear what he's saying. He then has to write on the chalkboard, which I can't see from the back of the class because he writes so small.
For Focal Point, I'm Tyler Clifford.